So as you guys can see, I found my old sketchbook of some old designs I used, and just gonna go over those real quick, and then we're gonna get right to it. So this was a particular. I was thinking about a ghost water type, so I'm just like, you know what? I had originally thought perhaps I could, get away with that idea, and even go as far as to like just come up with an overall design. So I was like, perhaps we can do like a ghost grass type or something like that. And as you guys can see, there's like a little bit of an inconsistency here. So it's like gotta kind of gonna try to fix that right quick. Yeah, just gonna add a little highlights, kind of just to go over that ghostly energy a little bit, and at the same time provides a slight bit of shadows. So the next one, now I honestly don't really know why I scrapped this one in particular, but I definitely did. This was a regional version of the Hone Edge line. So instead of like the ghost steel type or whatever have you that Hone Edge is traditionally known for or whatever, I decided to, go with a steel dragon type. So, and unlike your traditional, I decided like, okay, Hone Edge base level is essentially an unsheathed blade, and then as it evolves into Dew Blade, it ends up getting what would you consider a sawtooth kind of blade at the edge. But and it rotated quite a bit, and then when it finally evolves, it became a dragon type, right? So it's like essentially like a dragon crest, and instead of both blades being, or just one blade being in a sheath and one blade not being in a sheath, basically the because it's like I either was gonna go with Dragon Ghost or Ghost Steel or Dragon Steel type, and in this particular case, I was like, fuck it, we're just gonna go for the you know Dragon type. Next one is a fossil Pokemon, particularly. Excuse me a second. So I kind of came up with this idea, like literally, because at first I was like, okay, three-stage line, and as you can see, there's like red highlights in what appears to be feathers. But so I really came up with this like because I was watching Jurassic Park and I was like how everybody thinks dinosaurs evolved backwards and became birds and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, so basically bipedal velociraptor ends up bipedal stronger velociraptor. And at first I was like, regular rock type, footprint fossil, regular rock type, and then it becomes a rock fighting type. So I was like, yeah, we can do with that. And next, as you guys can see, I got scrapped concept designs for the original starters. As you can see, like I really kind of leveled out a little bit. Like some of you have already seen that the fire starter, I honestly, the fire starter has been the most difficult out of the group because I never really had a vivid picture of how I wanted it to look. So the concept was basically I'm going off of just a Hawaiian dancer, kind of like Orikoro, but at the same time, I want it to be Orikoro meets Kolavo kind of thing. So I basically went with the concept of a standard hummingbird, regular base fire type, then it evolves into a fairy type, fire fairy type at the end. So basically, like it can coexist in the trinity of starter Pokemon or whatever have you. So it's like the first version of Sharpup is a not I'm sorry a water steel type, and then Goldfern ends up being a grass ghost type. Obviously, y'all know that. So Fairy is weak against steel, And then Ghost, obviously, against Steel, there's a bit of a differential there. And then obviously you guys can see that there's some old designs that I did, stuff like that. Okay, so now, and that, like I said, now we're getting to a point where I was like, kind of like really just throwing ideas together, like how I really wanted the starters to really look overall. Because so as you can see, I took the highlights from the original design, which was red with purple with red feathers. So instead, I kind of went with red wings and purple feathers, if that makes sense. And Gold Fern kind of had like a like not, I wouldn't say a Reggie Rock kind of form, kind of shape, but I really was going with the golem idea. So it kind of had a goaler kind of status to it. Like it doesn't really move too much, but it kind of just sits there. And the overall design I based off of Among Us. So, and then obviously Sharp Pup, of course, you guys can see that. That really wasn't too much of a design change up until this point, but that's not what we're here for. Now, this one I did yesterday. So coming up with the names and all that, a final design for it. There's no more, you know, changes that need to be done or whatever have you. So I went with a purplish pink for them. So in this case, we now have names for them: chirping, which is chirping, and sing put together, because hummingbirds have like a like a flutter to them, and they're very graceful in terms of their how they retrieve nectar or whatever have you. And then upon evolving, which is my stigma, I wanted to say, let's say level 17. Actually, let's make it 18. And at level 18, it evolves into Humsing, which yet again, from the hummingbird concept, and instead of like being a hummingbird, it evolves into what is considered like a swan. And then obviously with the word humming and sing put together. And then finally, I'm actually rather proud of this one. I'm rather proud of this one. This is Falcormer. Now, fire and fairy type, I decided to use a lighter pink and just completely cut out the purple. And as you can see, the foliage is like more flushed out, and there's a lot of red and yellows and a distinct amount of pink. And in this case, as you can see, Falcormer is actually a combination of falcon and performer, which again evolves into level 34. Yep. So now that y'all got the idea out of the way, we're getting to the knit and grit. Now, again, Twiggle / Goldfern went into a real, like extreme design overhaul, because at first it was going to be a golem. Then I was like, okay, let's make it a twig and then evolve into a golem. And that idea stuck because it kind of more like a tiki kind of idea, but then evolved into an actual golem. So what I ended up doing, as you guys can see here, that I relatively did not stick towards that idea. So this ended up being a gold fern. So it's like I didn't really think too much of it. I was like, you know what? This is fine. I can do that. So as you can see, like the status changed. I honestly not sure what type to make him. I was gonna say ghost fighting, but not because Annihilate really was the go-to with that idea because he stuck out the most for me in front of in Scarlet and Violet. But enough of that. Now we're here for what now we're really here for what y'all are here for. So this is Mega Falcormer. Now, as you can see, it's a bit of a mess right now. So let me see if I can just adjust my lighting here just a wee bit. Just a wee bit. Let's see if we can. I'm sorry for the mess, you guys. It's just genuinely trying to, you know, I'm still getting my stuff straight in my new place. I just settled in my new place, so we're still trying to get everything done here. So again, as you guys can see, the the dancer concept that I really was going for is that I decided to shorten its wings, but at the same time really bring out that foliage, if that makes sense. Kind of like taking inspiration from the cool lava set of it all, but at the same time still keeping it at least semi respectful. You know what I mean? So again, so what we're gonna do is I'm going to add a few more. Yep. And mm-hmm. So let me see. So it's really not too many design changes I'm really gonna go with in this manner. But like I said, I really, 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 really want to do something with this. So let me see here. Okay, so again, the whole like I'm not trying to like really overstimulate it, but I really wanted to bring something out in terms of like I'm still designing the other megas. I still haven't really like we're halfway through the Danzo region. I want to let y'all know that. And at this point, I should probably be finished with this probably before September if I put them out fast enough. But I also don't want to overstimulate myself by trying to, put myself on a schedule, but then at the same time not have a schedule, if that makes any sense. Like I don't want to like really throw myself off the grid too much. But it happens. Burnout happens quite a bit with me, and like I said, am very thoroughly accepting of it. Okay, so now that I got, so instead I'm going to use my Sharpie gel pen to kind of figure out the outline, and then depending on how the color turns out is when I'm going to actually like finalize any and every remaining details that might need to be. Okay, so and again, I try my hardest to not make Falcormer or Mega Falcormer too like muscular. I was kind of going for like a feminine look to it, and also trying to like at least like trying to maintain the concept of what it's on its design and what it's based on. Truthfully, and even going as far as to put it in a like a ballerina's positioning. Hmm. Okay, hold on. And also like trying to consider just a few things like if I want the foliage around its waist to look like, that kind of stuff. because I'm also like trying to make it like a sundress, like a Hawaiian dance dress, but at the same time, I'm also trying to, not, like I said, not trying to over over design it, because I realize there's going to be a lot of vacant space if I do it like that. Okay, and at that point, that's when I'm going to connect it. Okay, so now we got that out the way. Want to make sure I connect the feet in a decent shape. And then now for the final bits of foliage around the head. And okay. And then obviously the designs that I put on his face. Like I said, going off of what I already know about like bird Pokemon period, is more of a situation where there's definitely limits to what I can do, because I'm still getting used to drawing Fakemon anyway, especially when it comes to avian Pokemon. So it's like, yeah. But all right, now it's time for the cleanup. And then we're going to go back, make sure we clean up any straggling lines. Because, like I said, I'm 100% sure there's going to be some, and definitely already showing that. Beautiful. All right. So, as you guys can see, it definitely cleaned up very well, but now we got to go back and we got to correct any loose lines. Make sure that the outline is correct. This is beautiful. And I feel like once I add the colors, I feel like it's definitely going to pop. Okay. And like I said, I kind of figured there was going to be some form of negative space I missed. And there we go. So far we have Mega Falcormer. Now, just to sum it up quickly, because like I said, I know exactly where I want this, where I want the designs to go, and I know exactly where I don't want it to go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my Standler fine lining marker to kind of lighten up a little. Definitely need that for the fine tuning, starting with the beak. And really, that's what's going to hold the whole design together, because it's going to be a lot of pink, yellow, and stuff like that. And like I said, I want to have like highlighted foliage around Mega Falcormer's body. Yeah, like I really like how this is coming so far. Kind of like the leaves changing in fall, that kind of thing. And don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna put yellow all over Mega Falcormer's body, but the headpiece primarily is going to be like the line in the sand, essentially. Okay. And then, like I said, you're gonna finally highlight the last bit. All right. So again, not trying to, you know what? Yeah, I think it's better that way. I feel like that's a better design choice. And then just have the yellow blend in with the rest of the colors. There we go. Mm-hmm. All right. So now that I've used my fine liner marker, I'm going to use just a regular Crayola marker, because I know the shades are different. The shades of yellow are way different. So what I'm going to do is just basically finish out all the yellow that's in the design thus far. This way I don't have to really worry about, crossing all my T's and missing a few I's, if that makes any sense. And there we go. Oh, and let's not forget the yellow underbelly. which I definitely ignored doing, going over with my Sharpie. Okay, so now we have that out of the way. Now comes the semi difficult part about where placement goes. Now, again, for the sake of this being a fairy type, I'm kind of like choosing to give it like a fiery design, if that makes more sense than anything else, because it's more like, unlike the other megas, the other two starters, I've actually decided to make Mega Falcormer, stay, its base, because some Mega evolutions, they change type in general, and then some just don't get a different type altogether. So what I'm going with is Mega Falcormer is just going to stay a fire fairy type, because yet again, going with a design that relatively, you don't you we haven't even got a Pokemon that's a fire fairy type, and the opportunity was missed in Scarlet and Violet. So what I'm doing is trying to basically cover that, and I definitely feel like trying to look like a f- make it look like a fire, but it's also trying not to be make the over, there we go. All right, so like I said, I'm just gonna try to make the design a little more highlighted. There we go. So now that we've gotten that out the way, I'm going to blend using a Crayola color pencil, which is effectively going to be what drives the whole design. Yep. And this is exactly the color I was looking for too. Blending in perfectly with the orange, and at the same time standing specifically to make making the yellow like kind of the base of the flame, or the head of the flame basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah, look at that blending. That blending is perfect. Like I said, you can see I'm trying to conjoin the Crayola and the marker into the same spot. And then also trying to highlight the flame design versus trying to overpower it by just adding more and more color on top of it. And as some of you can tell, I did intentionally leave out some of the spots without orange highlightings, and genuinely that was on purpose, because 3 of its headpiece. I kind of wanted to just leave that just as is, or the last 2, I should say. I'm sorry. Now, overall, if you guys haven't caught on to it thus far, primarily why I'm designing the body the way I'm designing the body, because if some of you who are familiar with Demon Slayer, some of you who are not familiar with Demon Slayer, and if you haven't noticed, the design is primarily inspired by the Hinokami Kagura, which is Tanjiro's Sundance move that he learned from watching his father. So, yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a combination of lavender and royal pink in the final half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick shade in, covering any, and then all, and then basically use the lavender as a secondary blend, let's say that. While also trying to avoid hitting any and all unnecessary colorings. Ooh. And yes, I know, like it matches the overall flames that I put on the lower body and the upper body. Yes, I am aware of those things, and yes, that was intentional. That was intentional, so I could go over it with the lavender. And this is where the shit comes. Oop, hold on. There we go. There we go. Now you guys are seeing it. Yes, sir. And I'm overlapping on purpose so I can make sure I get the perfect amount of lavender and pink put together. And there you have it, folks. We're finished. Mega Falcorma, the Sundance Pokemon. And I feel like we definitely did something with that one. We definitely did something with that one. Move this back so y'all see it. And there you go. We have done it. We have Mega Falcorma. Fire and Fairy type. I kind of like how this turned out. And even though this is a late night live or whatever have you, I feel like I definitely got something out the way with this one. But let me know something. I feel like I did great with this, guys. Like I'm really proud of myself with this one. I'm very, very proud of myself with this one. Like it's definitely one of my, I want to say definitely one of my favorite designs. But that's enough of this live. Y'all be safe. I'm out.